How you doing, everybody? This is Dennis Michelson. Welcome to the Science of Fantasy Football. Why the Science of Fantasy Football? Well, you get a meteorologist and a biologist together. They're going to use the scientific method to help make you a better fantasy football player, and it will work because using the scientific method basically just means we're using statistics in a smarter way. And joining me, as he does each and every week, he is the fantasy professor, after all. It is Professor John Bush. John, another crazy Thursday night game. And I'm left with the question, how bad are the Dallas Cowboys?
Uh, I was pleased that Dak didn't, do so bad that, it was a good, to me, anything at average or above is a good game. That's
Oh,
my
yeah.
definition. So I
Yeah.
got a good game out of him. Happy with Lamb, that nice. Uh, Trying to get more clarity on Tolbert, and I feel less. I was thinking maybe he's overtaking Cooks. I'm back on the fence on those two. The second fiddles. Love Ferguson. Uh, just not sure what is the defense. I don't know. I'm not a coach, folks, and so I'm a scientist, and I'm not a coach. And I think there's some common skill sets, but they're way beyond me. I wouldn't tell them what to do. It's just it looked like the defense, if they had a stronger defense, I think Dallas would go further. I guess that was my take.
Yes.
Is
Yeah, and
that
I think
is that
I
what you're thinking?
yeah,
Or
I think that's excellent. And if they had a real running back that they
oh
could that could
yeah, they
dominate a
are
game.
working around not I mean, Dowdle, it was his week, called a pass, touch. I mean, but they need a hammer, and they got a few nails that they're missing the hammer. They need a Henry.
Yeah,
Jerry
but
Jones should have paid up for a Henry. Come on, Jerry.
there you go. But I like the way you put that, though. I'm not a coach, and I learned that last night.
I'm not a coach.
I was doing
The
the
high school game.
color commentary at a high school game.
I saw your thing on that. Yeah.
so so I made a comment because they tried this. They'd been running the ball down the other team's throat. I mean, just Westville was running at will. Anytime they wanted to go run wide or run up the middle or whatever they were trying, they were getting 5, 6 yard chunk plays.
That sounds
And
good.
and they kept trying to get this jet sweep going.
Uh-huh.
And or a reverse. They run jet sweeps and reverses. And I made the comment, I don't know why you're messing around with this jet sweep stuff when you're able to just pound the ball against the opponent. And then all of a sudden I saw why they were doing the jet sweep and the reverses because they faked one. Quarterback ran right up the middle for about 35 yards. And I said, that's why he's been coaching for 30 years and I'm up here in the booth. But, it just sometimes plays are used to set up a bigger play down the road. And that's not something that fantasy football analysts are very good at picking up on. We like to see always positive yardage. We don't want to see teams behind the chains. But I looked at Dallas and I'm like, my goodness, this NFC East division, every team in that division has a big flaw. Philadelphia's biggest flaw is injuries, but which are unpredictable. But their defense isn't even all that sound, other than a good front group. But Dallas just looks vulnerable. The Giants look bad. Philly doesn't look good. The Commanders have some promising offensive players, but their defense is suspect. I look at the entire division and I'm like, that the winner of the NFC is not coming out of the NFC East this year. But going into week 4 here of the fantasy football season, and I was pretty pleased with how my Cowboys and Giants did. Neighbors, I hope the concussion isn't bad because he is one of the best wide receivers in fantasy football right now. In fact, using my
What?
best
Yeah. Would you?
index, he graded out number one.
Yeah. Okay. So that my question: Harrison Jr. or him? Who's the dog right now? And you
Right.
say neighbor.
Right now it's Neighbors because
Okay.
he's getting all the attention.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Harrison's been really good too. So I've got Harrison ranked right
Well,
now as number 16 in fantasy football at wide receiver after 3 weeks. That's not bad.
not. But here's and I don't know if this is a metric, but neighbors actually makes Wandale better.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure who Harrison does it make Michael Wilson better?
No,
You
no.
you know what I'm saying? He's so good that he is drawing so much action that's allowing Ondale to collect, and that's could be somebody that helps you in these tight weeks, especially bye weeks coming up. I'm as I if I could start the draft over, I think I'd have a lot more Wandale than I got him in a few leagues, maybe 10 out of 40, but I think I'd want a few more for bye weeks. That if I had to, kind of do that time machine back to the future, because that's what I'm thinking is having a neighbors allows Wandale, and at the price that's what that price differential in the drafting, Dennis. I mean, we know neighbors went high early, Harrison went high, but Wandale versus say Michael Wilson,
Oh boy, yes.
that next tier, I think it makes them more dynamic. I think that makes them. I know Singletary didn't have a game, but he's had games before, and people just because you did where you did bad last week, you suck. You did great last week, you're great. You can't do fantasy like that, folks, because it's going to be up and down, right? You can't judge based on your feelings from last week, right? That's your brain tricking you. That's why consistency that Dennis and I chart allows us to look past those emotions. If I had one thing to say, Dennis, that gives us an advantage by doing the metrics, it at least allows us a way to step away from that dramatic, you can hear and neighbors does this, and you hear that in your head, and that can mess with your objectivity on, how you uh, plan the lineups for that week or trades or anything. You can get befuddled, and metrics kind of puts you back a little bit, and at least I think makes us more, we hope, Dennis, we're testing this year, more level headed.
Yeah, you could chase points like everybody else does, and you're really going to be in for a downer because look at how many people were so sure that Isaiah Likely
Yeah, I'm
was
still
going to be,
laughing at that. Yeah.
he was going to be a
That
huge
broke the
thing
fab
because
bank. Yeah.
it broke the fab bank. Now we've seen, Juwan Jennings break the fab bank this week. And, I made the comment, and it was kind of tongue in cheek on Twitter, but I made the comment that, and it was based on the large fab. I said, based on all this large fab, you know, here's a not so comfortable thought for fantasy football. When Debo or Kittle returns,
Kittle's returning this week, by the way.
and he's returning this week, and Debo might return. I
Yep.
said when they return, Jennings might not be a thing anymore, folks. And you're bidding so high, and somebody said, "Well, nobody is saying that Jennings would be a thing." I said, "But the fab
The
money
fab
is."
says it was.
The people aren't bidding that much on somebody if they're not planning to use him in their starting lineup. And that's the thing. I guess that's the thing that always befuddles me on fantasy football Twitter is I think the people that are usually interacting there
Yep.
with other people, they only think like the typical fantasy football content producer, and that's not 95%. of the people playing fantasy football. 95% of the fantasy football people play different than the average fantasy football consultant or expert or so-called expert. And we play different than 95% of the analysts and 95% of the players because we are not chasing last week's results. We are chasing volume. We are chasing what appears to be more consistent performance, and that's based on your past performances of more than just 1 week. It's not getting crazy about Juwan Jennings having a record week. He had more points last week, Professor,
Yep.
than he had all of last season and part of the season before combined.
Yep.
A season and a half worth of Jennings. You had all his games together. They didn't equal what he did in 1 week. That's not sustainable. It was a unicorn event, and we're not likely to see another unicorn from him this week, but there'll be some other player that steps up and he'll have a 3-touchdown game and 120 yards or whatever, and all of a sudden that'll be the guy that everybody's chasing next week. I don't understand that logic.
People, my hypothesis is a lot of the common, and I hate to use that term, a lot of the folks playing, let's not say common, play scared. And when you play scared, the only thing you know is what happened last week. And that's why you bid crazy. That's why your lineups are funky. You're missing what's happening what's going to happen this week. If Debo and Kittle are back, that is not the same scenarios what happens when they were gone. And if one is back, Kittle, but not Debo, that's another scenario. Okay. So you've got these different situations. At the horse track, it starts raining. That's a different scenario. Some horses have never run in the mud, right? Their mudder was a fodder, or their fodder was a mudder, that kind of thing. Or they're on grass, or their route in sprint. And so a lot of times you don't know what this scenario means because it's never occurred or never really happened a lot. And when I say a lot, remember in fantasy, we only got 16, 17 games. So Dennis, by that example, scenarios in those games, how many where Debo and Kittle are going to be gone for San Francisco the whole year? Both. That scenario's probably not in the future. I would say most likely both will be there. Then the next scenario is one is going to be there. The rare scenario is where they'll be both gone and Jennings can ascend again. Not saying it won't happen, but when you bid Fab, I would estimate maybe 2 more games, maybe this season, that he can ascend to 40 points. And that's me maybe being overly optimistic. So if you divide that by 15 games, so how many points could I get? His floor of 6. You could do the math, right, Dennis? It'd be 40, say 60 points plus another 100 points, and you've got 12 more games. Divide that. What is that? 8 points? 7 points? Is 7 points worth 80% of your fab, Dennis? I would say no. I mean, that when I think of things like this, when I'm doing waivers and I'm bidding that kind of high money, that's the kind of thinking versus my dollar plays where I don't care. If I spend $1 and it never happens again, I don't care. It's $1. I'll throw them away and find some. There's a few flavors of the week, Dennis, that I have been fishing for. There's Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Oh yeah,
was last night. I got a lot of dollar plays for him, Dennis. So I've got probably $20 plays out of 41 league. If I get 10, hey, I'm happy. And if he does nothing and doesn't come back when they, week 5, say, hey, okay, it's $1. And couple weeks, if he's, just out for the season, then fine. And there's some other ones, probably not going to say but I've got some other fishes that I'm looking at. That's how I think about waivers, folks, is try to think into the future. Look at the scenario that just happened last week. What happened? Did they play Carolina the worst, with Bryce Young? We'll never see that again, probably, unless Andy Dalton gets hurt. If Andy Dalton gets hurt, then Bryce Young's back. I bet you they find somebody else. I bet Bryce, there's a lot of talk because they don't want to jeopardize any trades. But if I was Carolina, I wouldn't tip my hand. Or if anybody asks, oh yeah, we'll take him back. I.e., he's valuable versus in their real head. God, I hope Dalton doesn't get hurt. You just don't know what's out there, Dennis. So those are kind of thinking. I think being scared makes you look in the past, and it blinds you to the future, Dennis. If you're going to the track and you're scared, you're only scared of, oh, I can't bet anybody but the favorite. I'm scared. It's the favorite. Why is everybody thinking, well, they must know and I don't? You see, you get into that versus, hey, this is 10-1 here. What am I seeing? If you're betting scared, you see that, and then the 10-1 comes in first or second. There's a big exactor, and you're kicking yourself. Damn it, how come I couldn't pull the trigger on that? So I think there's some psychology of the game. I talk about some of my video lessons, but you can't play scared, Dennis. And you've got to fast forward and think of the scenario, divide that by your fab. Is it worth 7 points a game realistically for me to bet 80% of my fab on? 20 points a game, okay. 15, 10, you need to find where you're comfortable at. That's why your diary could maybe help you. Have you done this before? Have you been Jennings before last year, versus a Puka? When I bet 400, so 40% of my fab on him, Dennis and I were talking, and I said, Dennis, I think his floor is a WR2. So to me, the calculation was it was given the teams I needed a solid WR2, it was worth 40%. That was my mental calculation. That was my economic calculation. I got better than that. Woo woo. Not this year, but last year. So that's the kind of thinking that I like to employ. But Dennis, I don't remember the last time I bet Puka 40%. This year, 10%, as high as I bet. And that's one player, a
And it
certain
really,
running back.
it pays to be a week ahead or a week early or a
Yes.
couple weeks early. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes off of his pup list. The earliest he can come off is next week for week 5.
Yep.
So this is the week that if I have a spot that I know I'm not going to use, let's say I'm carrying an extra tight end.
So you got Zeke or Elliott. I actually made that play.
Yes.
I decided this may be wrong for the season, but given what I've seen, given the consistency, given the draft, everything told me he was kind of a reach anyway, but I got him real cheap in the draft. If if I'm wrong and I traded him for Helaire, then it is what it is.
I have a team where I had Hawkinson sitting in reserve as my tight end. So I drafted 2 other tight ends.
Yep.
I drafted Ertz and Dulcich. I dropped Dulcich to pick up Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week. I'm not playing him. I'm playing Ertz every week until his bye or Hawkinson's back. So I don't need the extra tight end. So I'll take a shot. Another guy that I've taken a shot on, I drafted a bunch of him. He went on IR. When he went on IR, I knew it was fairly safe to drop him because people weren't going to pick him up because an FPPC redraft, you don't have an IR slot. So it was Audric Esteem from
Yep. I
Denver.
dropped him too.
I dropped him. I picked up some of him this week because he'll be eligible to come off in week 5. Nobody has looked good for the Denver Broncos. I also picked up a little bit of Tyler Beatty. I picked up a little bit of Blake Watson. I don't have any faith in those guys that have already had a shot. The Jaleel McLaughlins and the Javonte Williams haven't exactly set the world on fire. So I'll take a chance by betting on an up and comer. I've grabbed a little bit more of Kamani Vidal again after letting him go early. I'm a week ahead of when everybody's going to be bidding, so I can get him cheap. If you look at the last 2 years combined for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, every single game that he played 50% or more of the snaps, he scored an MVP index of 87.5. That's pretty darn good. And 87.5 on MVP index would give you a top 15, top 16 running back for $1 because he's going to get a shot. If he's healthy enough to come back, he's going to get a shot. Why not take a chance with one of those roster spots that you're not using? I did the same thing earlier this year on Wan'Dale Robinson when he was still available. I picked up some Wan'Dale and now got injuries with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith missing games, with Puka out, Cup out, guys like that out that I had on my team. I had to plug in Robinson this week, and I was happy with what I got. So always be a week or two ahead of a guy having a big performance, and you won't have to spend all of that fab money. But we had a good set of predictions for that Thursday night game. We were kind of big time, expected a good Lamb game, expected a good Dak game. We got enough points out of them to be happy. I was even happy with my Daniel Jones shares that I have to play due to injuries. So, and obviously Neighbors was a beast as always, and Wan'Dale did okay for you. So, and Ferguson wasn't horrible as far as tight ends go. We've learned to set our goals on tight ends a heck of a lot lower this year, Professor.
Yep.
So we're anytime that they scratch the scorecard, we're kind of happy. But looking ahead to the Sunday games, we have
I've got for those follow the video, I put up our Vegas views. I tried to update this morning. I kind of just dropped the games by the over-unders just to kind of set the husky, the dog, the squirrels, and so we've got that data. I'll also have, if we want to look at my week 4 power rankings, I've got the efficiency metrics, how the teams are doing the whole season versus my week 4. How do I think they're going to do? And then the uncertainty levels I have with any of my rankings or anything, and what teams are worried me a lot versus what teams that are not worrying me a lot. So I've got all that as well. So before we get into Squirrel Husk, just remember you have to meld all this together. What I don't know, and it's I need interns, I would love to understand how much weight I should give power rankings, efficiency rankings, uncertainty rankings, Vegas, and then my personal player rankings. Dennis, I need that, put it all together. So I don't know the answers to that questions. I need interns. So anyway.
But one thing we do know, Professor,
Yeah.
if you're loading up your rosters, it's better to have guys that are in some of these higher scoring games, especially if they're close games, because then you don't have to worry about getting games scripted. versus having some of these guys. I mean, I don't want to have to rely on anybody from Miami right now. Obviously, if you drafted Tyreek Hill, if you drafted A. Shane, if you drafted Waddle,
It's
it's
lean.
very, very tough to leave him on your bench. But I have to consider leaving Waddle on the bench this week. Hill probably not, A. Shane probably not, but it is very lean when you are talking about the squirreliest of the squirrel games.
Do we want to talk Tennessee, Miami then?
Let's talk Tennessee and Miami. That's a Monday night football game, too. So there might be some players you have in reserve. I do like having, for fantasy football purposes, Professor, I like having two Monday night games because it
Yeah.
gives you a little more flexibility if
Okay.
you've got somebody injured.
So weekly rankings, Miami sucks. Tennessee's a little bit better, but still sucks. Efficiency wise, Miami the worst. Tennessee is actually had. I'm trying to find where a little bit better, but still sucky. They're on the downside, but Miami's bad. Uncertainty, Miami, bad. Tennessee's right there. So we have very uncertain game with ranking players. There's just everything seems with the metrics to scream, boy, you really don't want to play a lot of these players, Dennis. Vegas thinks the same thing. 36 and a half, the
Ugh.
spread is one. So Vegas doesn't even know who's going to win. They got Tennessee favored 19, Miami 17. It looks like a lot of field goals to me, Dennis. Not a lot of touchdowns, the way it looks, the way it's being scripted out here. Daps, uh, both teams are fighting tough overall defenses. The bright spot for both, Dennis, is the running back. I consider that kind of a little bit better than average. Miami, a little bit better on the quarterback. Tennessee, extra tough on the quarterback and the wide receiver.
Ugh.
So, and the tight end, Tennessee, Chiggy might have a little bit. You definitely want to play both defenses. I bought in for our dynasty, Miami. I also had Tennessee as a contingency. Uh, so either one, I'm happy taking the defense. Home away splits, the last three. Uh, Miami at home likes to rush. They don't like and pass pretty good too. So that actually plays into their depths. A. Shane may have a better game than it might appear. Tennessee away loves to rush more than pass relative to being at home. They're a weird team last year. They tended to do better away from their home field, which is very strange to me. And Tennessee with Pollard. So I could see a lot more than you think A. Shane and Pollard, not saying they'll be successful, just attempts and activity. So I'm probably playing Pollard, but I'm probably playing both in a flex for sure. I don't know about, as you say, the wide receivers. Hopkins woke up last week. Boy, not only does he need to wake up this week, he needs to be wide awake and put that stickum on his hands. He needs to shellac his hands with that stickum, and he needs to get me a touchdown in a couple of flex positions. I'm probably going to have to play him in, Dennis.
That's a very lean game that is ahead of us here. I like Miami as the dog, as the minor. I'll take the +1. Over under, I'm afraid this could be an under. As low as this is, I could see this game just being in the teens, in low teens to mid teens at that for both teams. So I like A. Shane this week. I probably would have to play Pollard in a few leagues, especially deep dynasty. Other than that, I would want
It's
to run
lean.
away. Yeah, I would want to run away. I agree with you on the defenses. I did the same thing. I've got a lot of Miami, and where I couldn't get Miami, I've got Tennessee. Will Levis has looked really below average,
Yeah.
and haven't seen too many glimmering lights. So this is a game where if you have to load up on players from here, you're probably playing for second place in your matchup this week.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. That's why I like the FFPC where we can, go for points and then the top point people get into the playoffs. I like that better than the random. You can be number two in your whole league and face the number one and lose. That irritates me. Versus if I'm number two in points, then I'm probably doing well on my way to get into the playoff. We're playing for the playoffs, Dennis, and then it gets crazy. You could get Gurleyed at any point in the playoffs. I'll never forget that because I was facing him in too many, and it cost me money. That one he goes off, and imagine going against you know Jennings again. Maybe that final playoff, Debo and Kittle and Ayuk are out. How about that? A
Oh boy.
three-way just disaster. And my opponent has Jennings and he goes off again. The only time he's gone off over 10 the week that I'm playing him for the money. I mean that's just yeah, I never forget those tough beats. But anyway, then lean game, folks, be cautious. Uh, I wouldn't bet any of this stuff but I don't bet. So Dennis has been doing pretty good on the spread. Dennis, are you betting this spread this week with Miami? You're taking the one?
Yeah, I would take the one on Miami.
Okay.
Last week, 10-6 against the
Nice.
spread, eleven
Good.
and five in week one. Week two, when I was up in the
You were on
mountains, I didn't do
vacation.
so well. So,
Well,
and it
you were
showed. It
having to
showed.
dodge the Bears, right? Not the Chicago Bears, the
Not
real Bears.
the
Look,
real,
when I'm
real
running
Black
for my
Bears.
life, it's hard to juggle all the daps and everything in my head to figure it out. Just happy to survive the bear attack.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes this week. Before I get too gung ho, remember I said 4 week test before I was going to dive in on this betting stuff. So just taking it slow, taking it easy. And even after week four, I'm smart enough to realize that there are many things I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's where I am going to protect myself.
We do the other
Another,
squirrel game, or you want to do one
well,
a little bit in the
let's look
bow?
at a slightly squirrelish game
Okay.
that is a game of interest to me
Okay.
with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Chargers.
Number 12. So this week, KC is in the top 5 or 6. The Chargers are, they're down way. They're weak sauce. So that's a big spread there, unlike the Miami, Tennessee. This is a big spread. KC looks strong. Efficiency wise, KC's very strong. Chargers, they're down. But so again, that split between the two, KC's 74 efficiency versus 50, so 24% better in efficiency, and that's yards, points scored over time. So I don't what's the well, we'll go to the game. It's number 12. So let's see. I have to number Dennis because I get all tricked on where I do these figures, folks, and then I get a little. Here it is. So Vegas says, like my metrics say, 26-12 KC -7 39. So it's a little weak. And I think this one of the games where they think KC scores its usual routine
Yeah.
and the Chargers just can't get nothing going. So that's why it's an over under lower squirrely because it's the Chargers' fault for all this, Dennis. Daps, KC does have to work. Rice is going to have to earn his biscuits. Okay. Kittle, Kelsey, people thinking they're going to go all. It's not easy, not hard. Below average a little bit. Uh, Carson Steele, P. Ryan. I don't know if Hunt plays, but there's an opportunity to get some points in flexes. I am playing a little bit of Steele. Just I'm thinking that 10 points, 12 points, hoping to get there. Okay, in a flex because I kind of get lean on some of these injuries. The Chargers, uh, Dobbins, boy, he's going to have to earn his keep, but the tight end has an opportunity. Extra easy, quarterback, wide receivers, and they're kind of anyway. So the spot play here is the tight ends for the Chargers and for KC. It looks like the RBs have an opportunity. Efficiency wise, KC at away loves to rush and they love to pass. So they actually, in away games, love to just be lots more active than you would think. Chargers at home love to try to pass, and that may be playing into KC's defense, and that may not work. So, Chargers, I think, are going to have to try to use Dobbins to try to keep the KCD at bay if they got any shot at this game, Dennis.
Yeah, and this will be very tricky to figure out what is going to happen on the fantasy side of things. I think on the football game side of things, this is an easy game where the Kansas City Chiefs will not have to get any help from their friends, the referees, for once, and they will win this game going away nice and comfortably. I
Would you
think
take the spread?
I would take the spread. I would give 7. I actually think this is going to be a double-digit game for the Chiefs, an easy victory. Herbert, even if he plays, is limited in his mobility. That's not
And he
good
could get
against.
hurt one wrong step and he's
Yeah,
gone.
yep. The Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt to the active roster, and coach says he'll be part of a 3-man platoon. So what that basically means is that it's going to take the value of any given one running back out of the play. So
I'm
it's going to
hoping
be
Steele might get a hot hand for a little bit near the goal line, Dennis.
that's what I'm hoping to. But I've got some Kareem Hunt that I scrolled away a week before, um, you know, when he was signed to the practice squad. So I've got a few Kareem Hunt shares. I will see what I need to do. Do I play Kareem Hunt? Do I play somebody else? It's going to be a decision I make
Because
a
there's a
lot.
lot of injuries for my flexes. I don't know
Yes.
if
Yes.
Olave's out and some of these other players are out, then I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'm just saying I've got Steele because I drafted him. He's one of my dollar
Yep.
holler plays, and it's just I had him in almost half my 41, so he's there. So if I
He
break glass, if I need a body, that's how I
he
feel.
he didn't have any negative runs last week. Any
No,
big plays in the bad direction. He
yeah,
was and he put
that's
up,
why I was saying 10 points. That would be
yeah,
great.
depending on your scoring system, he got you 8 or 9.
Yeah,
So
it was close to what I
that's not
needed.
horrible. I'll take that.
He's not going to
Um,
hurt me with a donut.
no, no. In a situation where I'm trying to find a flex because of injuries or even a starting running back because of injuries,
Yeah,
if I can get 8 points, 8 or 9 points out of my running backs on bad weeks,
yeah.
I'll take that every time. I'll be happy because I'm only going to give up 4 to 6 points to the opposition. It's better than giving up 10 or 12 points to
Right.
the opposition. So give me the 8 and be happy. I still think Rashee Rice is a thing. I don't see a 20-point game. I see more of low to mid teens from him. So
If
still
he can
in,
get you median at 13,
get
Dennis,
you 12,
that's
13 on a bad day. I think that's a good game. Uh, Kelsey, we need to
boy,
see something. So here's the thing about Kelsey. Two of his games have been over 6 points. That's not what you expect from Kelsey,
nope.
but it's compared to other tight ends this year, it's not been horrible. It's
Oh,
not costing you in your league. But if you drafted Kelsey, you got him early enough that you want 10 to 15 points out of him every week. You want 10 points on a bad week, and he hasn't even given you that on his best week yet. So it's the sort of situation where I'm not in panic mode because he's still getting targeted. But that offense really hasn't had to shine. And quite frankly, I don't think they're really going to have to shine this week yet.
nope. I
So
agree.
I don't think it's going to be a big week for anybody on the team. But you're just hoping to get median and go on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Mahomes has given you 20 points 2 out of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Again, not what you expect from him, but compared to other quarterbacks, he's not killing you.
Yeah.
So that's the
I was
that's the
just
key
showing
right now.
looking at my rankings. I've got Mahomes at low QB1, high QB2 type. Kelsey at 76. That's same thing, 1, 2 area, but high uncertainty. Rasheed Rice is more a solid 2 this week, 82 out of 100. Low seems the most solid play. I do note Worthy is an interesting 4 this week. He's a low one. I think he might surprise a little. You might get a little more juice than you think. I've got him. Uh, Butler, you got to love him for the Chargers. Dobbins, I got him as a 3-4 type, Dennis, but
Yep.
solid. He'll get you that. Uh, that's about it, Dennis. It's Hayden Hurst should, if you drafted Hayden Hurst as your tight end too,
Ugh.
this could, I mean, you're rolling the dice, but if everybody's hurt, and Njoku's out and you got Hurst as your 2, okay, there's an opportunity, according to Daps, he might get you 8 points this week. So you hope he'll get a touchdown and fall in, an accidental tip, right? He's throwing it to Lad McConkey. It tips it and it lands in Hayden. Surprisingly, lands in his arms, and there you're saved for the week. So there you go, Dennis.
There you go. And I'll take the Chiefs -7. I'll take the under on this one. I just don't think the Chargers are going to put up much of a fight. Enough of those games. Let's go to the Huskies. These are the big, beautiful
We
games. They're
have
going to
4
score
of
us a lot
those,
of
maybe
points.
5. The Detroit, Seattle's awful close to that threshold, but Arizona, Washington, Cincinnati, Carolina, Baltimore, Buffalo, and they're picking Baltimore over Buffalo, and then Detroit and Seattle. So those are kind of the potential husky light. We don't have a super husky. To me, about 52 and over is like, wow, fireworks. But Arizona, Washington, we probably need to investigate that. But
Let,
who you
let's
want to
take
start with?
let's take a look at Washington against Arizona. That is a
Okay.
game that we should be looking at.
Okay. So this week, since I'm reading side with Washington, and let's see, who are they playing? Okay, Arizona.
Arizona.
Arizona is, yeah, big difference. Arizona's right above KC this week, and Washington low, a little bit higher than the Chargers, but not much. So that's sad. Efficiency wise, Arizona right above KC for efficiency, and Washington where's Washington? I don't know. Sometimes I should do more prep. I don't even see Washington. Maybe they're so bad. No, they're up. They're up. They're better than the Chargers. So that's good.
Yeah.
Uncertainty uh is let's see. I love Arizona's nice and low uncertainty. Washington is uncertainty. So nothing dramatic other than skewing to everything's skewing to Arizona. Those three different, the week four, the seasonal, and the uncertainty levels, everything's skewing to Arizona. That's not surprising. And is that game 11? Okay. So these numbers, folks, is nothing to do with my feelings. I just randomly do it. The site that I find the odds, just list them, and he's the 11th game listed. That's it. Okay, people may 28-21, 3.5 points, 49. Arizona gets an easy, except for Trey McBride actually has to earn his biscuits. But look at that, extra easy for Murray, extra easy for Harrison. It looks like a 2 touchdown connection with those two. And Connor we're talking thunder and lightning with Connor he needs to get me a touchdown because I got a lot of Connor and Harrison there. So I'm thinking 2 for Harrison, 1 for Connor. Murray's just runs roughshod over just lots of passing. Washington, on the other hand, has got a tough situation running. Brian Robinson Jr., he's the only body standing there. He needs to, he's going to earn his biscuit. And the passing, Jaden Daniels has been great. And surprisingly, and the wide receivers, they're going to have to be a little bit of, and Zach Ertz, I need a floor game 8-10, Dennis, this week. I wouldn't play any of the defenses there. So that's what that is. Arizona at home, loves to rush, doesn't like passes much, but with Harrison, I think they should balance out. I think they'll hit you both, and I think Connor will take over at the end. That's what I think. I think Washington. If Washington skips below 2 touchdowns, I think it's going to be a Connor game. I just don't know how it plays, Dennis. If Washington keep up, it's a Harrison game. So as to who's going to get multiple touchdowns. Washington being away, they don't like to rush or pass. They're just like to, flop over like a sick squirrel, flop over and let the Huskies eat them. So I guess I'm more pessimistic about Washington. I probably shouldn't be. That means they'll probably do well, but I'm more pessimistic about Washington this week than maybe Vegas is.
Yeah, and I am too. I think Arizona covers this spread. I think we're going to go over even the 49. I think this is going to be an offensive game. Arizona without McBride, Elijah Higgins.
McBride is out.
McBride is out.
Oh,
Elijah
well, that's
Higgins
good because
in.
the DAPS would say, he good. Okay, good.
Yeah, so Elijah Higgins is in, which is interesting because he is more of a wide receiver type than a real tight end.
Right.
So I'm not too big on that one.
Uh-oh. I think Dennis's voice cracked there. Anyway, let's go here. Let's see. Connor 72, so he's a number 3-4. McBride's out, so scratch that. Harrison 76, that may be a little under. I think it's game script dependent. If Washington can keep up, then I think it's a Connor. A Harrison. If Washington falls behind, it's a Connor game. That's how I see that. Washington, I guess, McLaurin at a 3-4, WR 3-4. Brian, average uncertainty 6, so he's a 3-4. Daniels, I know everybody's hot on him. I got him as a QB 2-3 type, so I'm probably more pessimistic on those guys than we should here. I should be at this point, so that's just me being bad there. And Dennis, if you can hear me, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, I'm back. Voice
I
did
just I
break
just
up a
went through
little bit there.
my player stuff just to keep it going for our video recording.
Yeah, I like Jaden Daniels here. I think he's going to run a little bit more Kyler Murray. I'm all over him in this game. Love James Conner, love Marvin Harrison Jr. Not as high on McLaurin. Will play Ertz because he's the
You
only guy I've
gotta.
got there. And I've got Ertz on the roster, he's my best tight end.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that because I only picked him up in leagues where I need him. Brian Robinson will have a little bit of a down game, but I'm expecting some pretty good numbers from
If it
this
can get you
Washington offense.
12, that's median.
Yeah,
That would
just
be a victory in my perspective.
yeah, just grind out a game for me. That's all I want. I don't care about a big number. I just don't want to have a real
He
tiny
needs to
number.
have some passing in this game to kind of balance out the hard running.
And
So,
Eckler will be out. So
yeah,
I
that's
think
one.
there's an opportunity there to crack some of that receiving yardage, which will save the day for him. And even with Eckler in there this year, we have seen 3 double-digit games from Brian Robinson. He had 17, 14, and 10 points. I'll take that from a guy where I drafted him. So that's not bad performance from a guy that, you were basically, looking, uh, before the season. He was a bargain. So if I'm looking at a guy like that who's had, pretty good, not great, but pretty good weeks for me, I, I'm okay with getting that 10 to 12 points a week because I didn't draft him high. If I draft a guy, in the first couple of rounds and that's what I get, then I'm upset with that. But I was getting him at RB 29. And at RB 29, you're getting him so late in the draft. He has stayed up there with guys performance wise. He hasn't been that far behind Bijan Robinson or Jamar Gibbs this year. So that's the way I kind of look at value at the running back position. Where did I
Gotcha.
draft him versus what did he produce? And he's
Yep.
definitely going to be my RB2 or a flex in a lot of leagues this week. I'm not expecting a big number, but I just want to avoid a bad one. Last game we should look at is a big game, the game of the week, the Sunday night football game. How about the Bills and the Ravens?
The Bills and the Ravens. Okay. So, Bills and Vegas has Baltimore ahead of the Bills. Isn't that interesting? Baltimore power rankings number 2 of the week. The Ravens and Buffalo is down on the back end of the average for the week. So there's a disparity there. Efficiency wise, though, Buffalo's number 1. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
have beat all the expectations this week. And Baltimore is, where are you at, Baltimore? Ooh, they're down. I don't, are they down? Yeah, Baltimore's hasn't been that efficient relative to scoring per time here. My dog's going nuts in the background, Dennis. And let's see. Baltimore's nice, uncertain, low uncertainty this week, and Buffalo's a lot more trickier here, about average. So the metrics seem to favor Baltimore, except that one glaring Buffalo. I mean, Dennis, 118. They're off
Wow.
scale
Wow.
in points, yards, overtime spent on the field. So just be aware. Vegas is thinking that it's game 14, right? So I just call that out. I mean, sometimes you'll see something and you think you understand the game, but then that flashes. Buffalo 21, Baltimore 26, 2.5 points, 47. Like I said, that efficiency, I wonder, is Buffalo tougher than people think? I don't know. Baltimore has an easy RB here. Henry should run early, often, get you lots of points. Passing's going to be a lot tougher. The wide receivers, tough. The tight end, uh, shall I say Mark Andrews? Because I didn't spend no money on Likely. So I think that's good. Don't want to play the D's. Buffalo gets an easy passing game and tight end. Kincaid, James Cook's going to have to earn his biscuits, and he has been outdoing what I thought he was going to do. He's been shining. I just hope injuries and stuff will stay away from him. So if you drafted Cook, I didn't draft enough, Dennis. I'll tell you that. Uh, Baltimore at home, they love to pass. They don't love to rush, and that's exactly opposite of what they should do based on the Buffalo defense. Buffalo away, they don't like to rush or pass a lot. They have that a home away split. So we got efficiency, but I don't know how many home games they played this year. Probably 2. So they're a little skewed on their home away. So worried about that. Just lots of worrisome. There's confused metrics. That one efficiency sitting out there, but everything else seems to kind of dampen that enthusiastic efficiency number being on an away game. So we'll see how Buffalo performs in a not friendly environment.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game, and I'm I'm on the Bills on this game. I'm a believer in the Bills. There's also going to be a little bit of weather that is
Ooh.
going to possibly come into play here, and I
Is
say
that the
possibly.
remnants of the hurricane coming
No,
up?
no,
No.
not really, not really. This is just a general rain shower. Could we say that it's kind of trapped in there because of Helene bringing all that moisture up? I guess you could say that, but it's a weak system. I don't think there's going to be a lot of wind with it. I'm just worried about the timing of any heavier rain showers. So that's when I say uncertainty, it's not in focus. We're recording this on Saturday,
Yeah.
and I right now I'm not so sure that it's a game that I would be worried about the weather in. Even if it rains, it might not be intense enough because light rain just it helps the offense. It doesn't hurt the offense. Heavy rain, heavy precipitation, heavy wind is the big factor. I don't think we're going to be there with the wind above my criteria.
Mhm.
Uh, but I'm worried about the intensity of the rain showers. So we'll have to watch that close to game time. But right now, if you were setting your lineups and you had to set them and forget them, I would say, if anything, it's going to help the Buffalo cause. It's as far as the point spread goes, I think they're more susceptible.
You gonna take the spread
I'll
with
take the spread.
Buffalo?
I'll take Buffalo in the 2.5 because I think they're going to win this game. I am not a big believer in Baltimore. Baltimore's been up and down this year as far as they've not looked great. They've let teams get back into games. Their
I
defense,
think their WRs are not as strong as they need to be.
no, they've got basically a one trick pony. They got a running game with either Lamar or Derrick Henry. Their passing game has been pretty average right to this point, and their tight ends have not shown up yet, with the exception of Isaiah Likely in week 1.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I think Baltimore has a lot to prove here, and I'm not so sure they're going to prove it. I think Buffalo is the team to beat right now in the AFC. I think they're on par with the Chiefs. They haven't played as tough of teams as the Chiefs yet, but I think Buffalo can beat Baltimore head to head here, and that would be a big win for them. And I just think it comes down to the quarterbacks. I think Josh Allen will be able to perhaps dominate this game, even though he's got a tough matchup. I'm looking at the possibility that he'll do well, and that Buffalo defense has been pretty good. So now, granted, they have not been always that great about stopping the run. So the strength of Baltimore plays into the weaker aspect of that Buffalo defense. Buffalo, if they get you behind the sticks, they put pressure on the quarterback, they force mistakes, and that's been their MO against weaker teams. Now we'll get to see against a better team, but I do like Buffalo, and I like the over in this one.
Nice.
I think they're going to score
Nice.
quite a bit of points between the two teams because while both defenses have some strengths, they also have some weaknesses. So
If
I think
Buffalo scores one more touchdown than Vegas thinks, then your over is nicely done.
that's correct, and that's what I expect to see. I expect to see a score mid to upper 20s for Buffalo and mid 20s for Baltimore. I expect the over to be right around 50. So I don't think
Gotcha.
it's going to be over by a lot, but I do like the over and I do like Buffalo
Excellent.
in this game.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com, folks, and you could check out all of this data from the professor.
I'll have all these up, Dennis.
The DAP data I have been using very religiously. I'll go over it more next week of how I'm using this data, but it's basically looking at the DAPs, looking at the strengths of a team and what they have to do in order to win, and looking at the data and saying, okay, this lines up for them. For in other words, Buffalo runs through Josh Allen. That's it. He runs through Josh. They run this offense through Josh Allen. As Josh goes, their offense and their success goes, and he's in a situation where I think he can beat this Baltimore team. But I also think the Baltimore strength, the running game, is where Buffalo can be a little bit weak if they can get some good yardage on first downs and Buffalo can't stop the run. I think this game ends up being a tight game and a little higher scoring game. So I look at both offenses here of having the edge against the opposing defense because of the strengths of what they do well.
It's good. I like it.
So head over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com, check out all of the data from the professor, and I'll even have an article up there for Sunday as well, taking a look at some of the early successes and failures here in the world of fantasy football. And then, of course, come back here next week, next Wednesday, for another edition of the Science of Fantasy Football.
Get to work, folks. Okay, Dennis. After the show, do you have time to go over New Orleans?
Yeah, we got a couple minutes.
Yeah. So you said you need to check out by 12:15. So I'm going to push you. So let's see, New Orleans. What game? Yes, I know he loves New Orleans too. My dog loves New Orleans. Number 2. So it's the first game. Hey, I know we're sad that New Orleans lost last week. Okay, we're all sad here at my home. Atlanta, the insult that it is to a New Orleans Saints fan here. The Dirty Birds are favored 23-24 to 18. 3. It's a squirrely 41, so that's sad. Atlanta Daps looks like Kyle Pitts, if he cannot get you a touchdown, folks, what you draft him, this is that spot. Everything else, Bijan, when I say tough against maybe one of the best, if you can get median, that still is tough. I mean, it's all relative, but Cousins is going to have to earn his biscuits to pass to Drake. I'm a little concerned about the passing game. Atlanta, New Orleans, Kamara, it's his hammer, and they're right into Atlanta's depths. So that's bad. So that means Carr's got to get Shaheed, and Olave is hurt. So I'm sad. I'm hoping Olave plays, and I'm hoping that I think Carr can stretch the field, and hoping that we can stay within shooting distance. I think it will be close, and the last team gets the ball wins. So I think New Orleans has a shot, and Atlanta at home loves to not pass or rush relative to away. They do better away as far as rushing and passing. New Orleans away, all about the rush, not about the pass. So New Orleans going to have to do exactly opposite their trend, and they're running into that tough depth. So if Kamara can catch more out of the backfield and keep them honest rushing. So it really, the leverage here or the fulcrum of this game, can I use that word fulcrum? You hadn't had that
I like it.
since
I like it.
Trigonometry here. The fulcrum is Kamara. If Kamara can catch out of the backfield and get lots of yards after contact, and that's going to put the Atlanta D in its fate. But if he just keeps running up against, then Carr's going to have to open up the field by Shaheed and hopefully Olave play. If Olave doesn't play, then I don't. There's some leanness on whoever's below Rashid because I can't even think of some of the names of some of them. I don't know if I ranked any of those. A.T. Perry's the only one, and I don't think he's ready for prime time yet.
No.
And so I'm sad about that. So Dennis, I guess I see too much. I'm probably too optimistic, but Vegas thinks it's a done deal. Atlanta whoops up on my Saints, and that would make me extra sad.
Well, I'm going to make you extra happy
Yeah.
because I expect this to be, first of all, I expect this to be a low scoring game. I think we're going to see probably a field goal battle here.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually give the edge slightly to your New Orleans Saints
And
to
New
pull off
Orleans
the
has
upset.
a 100% efficiency, even if they're in Atlanta is 43, so 57%. So the efficiency number would skew to New Orleans. New Orleans and the rankings this week is let's see where New Orleans is about average, and Atlanta is probably above. Uh, maybe not. Trying to find Atlanta. Did I probably was so mad at them I didn't even rank them. No, there are 6 points. So the power rankings, I have to be honest, this is my numbers. I give it to Atlanta as a team, but the efficiency of the whole season, okay, not just what I think will happen, is New Orleans has done quite well versus what Atlanta's done as far as scoring points and yardage over time. So it's like Buffalo, that's saying that New Orleans has a shot.
Very good, Professor. I
Okay,
like
man.
it.
Okay, that is the end of the After the Show show. Thanks for listening. My dog, yeah, let's beat those dirty birds. Yes, let's beat those dirty birds. Okay, the dog's helping me. He sees it. He wants to go chew those dirty birds. Dennis, we had fun. Let's shut this recording down. My dog's going crazy. Okay, man. Thanks for my dog chimed in just at the right time, didn't he?
Oh God, that's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Look at my icon. Do you see my little
I
professor
saw that. I
hat?
love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
professor of fantasy football. Yeah.
I love it.
So if you want, I can create you something. I think I said science, professor, robot, fantasy football, and I end up getting that image. So
I love it.
if you, I don't know if weather guy, could be some lightning bolts, maybe Zeus or something with a football throwing down at the common folk there. I don't know.
I
We did
like
get
it.
you a good icon here.
I
Okay,
love it.
man. Thank you. Have fun.
All
Whatever
right.
you're
Be
doing
good.
today. See
Yep.
ya.
Be good. Bye.
Bye.